Yes, you can start a creative business from manifestation, intentional systems, and even interior design. And no, it does not have to be like the hustle bros. It can be soft and feminine if you want it to be. Here is exactly how I did it. We are talking about how to brainwash yourself into starting a soft and remote creative business. I do think that there is some method to the madness here. The first thing that I did was I not only faced my artistic fears, but I shook hands with it, AKA do what you were afraid of. I don't mean that as cheesy advice. I think a lot of creatives are taught to be afraid of a lot of things. We're always told that we should be afraid of not having enough money. I mean, there's this whole starving artist mentality that we've been fed over and over again. The struggling musician who can't even pay rent. The artist who's just waiting for their big break, and as soon as that happens, they'll blow up. It's either this thing where you're like extremely famous or you are nothing and you have no money. It's nobody's fault. Like, this is something that I honestly allowed myself to absorb. If you're an artist, it's our own responsibilities to take hold of that. I had wonderful, wonderful teachers throughout my entire training and my college, and now amazing people that I look up to. I also had kind of wonky people as well, and I'm sure that you have too, so I'm not discounting that. But it is your responsibility not only to address those fears, but actually, if you need to shake hands with them. Every single one of the things that I was super afraid of, I ended up doing in my journey. First thing was quitting acting school. Let me preface this by saying that I don't recommend quitting school, and this wasn't something that there was anything bad that I was like, screw you. It was just something in my life that I needed to choose between one or the other. I finished out the majority of acting school, but then 2020 happened, and after a year and a half, my life looked a lot different. I even hate to use the word quitting, but I want to use it because it is a strong word, and I want to challenge that strong word and how scary it is. A lot of people are like, oh my God, what if I quit this, then I'm a failure. There's always this negative connotation. Maybe it's less about quitting something and more about shifting gears. It was 2020, it was March. I had a few more months left to actually graduate the 2-year program. Once they were adding people back in, there were other things in my life that were more aligning for me to go for. Because we are artists and creatives, I feel like we force this idea that, like, because our craft is so abstract, we have to have these really rigid and high goals to prove everyone wrong, almost. Prove that we aren't just failures. This is all language that I've used in the past that I wouldn't necessarily say now, but I'm just trying to illustrate this to you. I attached myself to this idea that I will only be successful if I graduate and continue this program. And it, to a point, yes, because the acting training is incredible. I don't necessarily recommend you quit education. It's not that easy, but I just want you to know that there isn't just one way to do things. And if you are afraid of doing something, or if you are afraid of your goals going a little bit out of what you thought it would be, ask yourself why. I had seen a lot of other people in my acting programs left mid-year, and a few other people couldn't come back for the second year, and I was like, I'm gonna stick it out because that's gonna make me stand out from the rest. And that's just not it. That's just not the reality. Life is so much more flexible and movable. I don't know how else to say it. That was a thing that I had to realize, and that I want you to think about too, is what are some things that you're doing right now that if you feel like you'd quit, it's like defining you almost. For me, it was the principle of quitting. It was the idea of, oh, if I quit, then I'm not dedicated enough to it. If I quit, I'm not gonna succeed. As artists, I bet you have more than one goal. I think sometimes we minimize ourselves down to just this one goal, but if we look at the grand scheme of things and think we have a bunch of different goals. I wanna get a house, have a theater, tour my music, release a record. One thing in our lives changing, I don't think is necessarily going to alter every single goal that we have. This is why I say not to plan goals more than 3 months in advance, because I don't think any of us can create a goal for ourselves of where we want to be in a year. That is way too long. If we are going to incrementalize our goals month to month, per quarter, maybe 3 months, we need to give ourselves some grace with these goals. Another thing that I was taught to be really afraid of, but I did, was I got a full-time job. There's a lot of fear around full-time jobs for creatives, but Also, I think in social media too, especially in 2020, I feel like I'd scroll and every other ad was quit that boring 9-to-5 job, be your own boss. As a creative, I never felt like I would fit in a full-time job. That was just never something I wanted to do. I always wanted to have a life that was expansive and could change every single day. The overall key to me starting this creative business and pursuit is to be more mindful and intentional. Understanding that things are going to change and things are fluid, that's actually what got me to getting a full-time job. I was substitute teaching, catering, taking every single odd job. And honestly, I was exhausted waking up wondering where my next paycheck would come from. Maybe that's something that you're feeling too. For this 1.5 years that I was in this full-time job, I did not have to worry about money. I knew exactly what my paycheck would be every other week, and that was able to help me invest in the future of my business. Another big fear I had, that if you would have asked me in high school, I would have never, ever dreamt that I would have done this. I moved away from New York City to South Carolina. There, of course, is this pressure that you need to be in a big city in order to really make it. I think there's also this pressure too, when I was in college, that you need to be able to like rough it out, be tough enough to deal with not only the rejection, and I went to school for theater and acting, so I was auditioning a lot. You have to be able to tough it out for rejection, but also you need to be able to handle the city. The city's tough and the city's unforgiving, but if you can handle that, you can handle everything. And it's like, what am I trying to prove, and who am I trying to prove this to? And who do I have to handle this for? And what is my ultimate goal? I remember going to see Miss Saigon, and I remember one of the dancers especially stood out to me because she was an alumni of the same college I went to. I was thinking that whole show, wow, what does it take to get there? I want to be on that stage. She's at the top. What I would do to trade places with her, to be in her place right now. I remember not even a month later going to an audition room and seeing her in that audition room because Miss Saigon had closed. She was back at the same level as I was. This has nothing to do with like her talent or anything. This is all the industry, and how the industry really does not have the ability to sustain us long term. That was kind of the first time I realized, like, what is really my long-term goal? If I were to get on this Broadway stage, I'm completely at the mercy of how long this play is going to run, how much people like it, what the audience reception is, the producers, and that's all fine and good if you're not worried about money. If you have financial backing, that's amazing. That is the goal, to be able to do something like that. And if it closes like, that was amazing, see you guys next time, instead of, holy crap, I can't pay rent. Back to this whole, why would I move to South Carolina when I was living so close and at some point in New York City? There are a few things that I started to realize, specifically after I graduated college. When Static and I started dating, we started talking about what our lives would look like. He's a musician and I was a performer. We started talking about this idea of having this theater collective because we met in this really beautiful, wonderful theater collective, little black box community. We were saying, how do we create something like that of our own? I remember the energy just radiating every time I would go in, and I started dreaming of that. Where we lived in New Jersey was not necessarily conducive of being able to afford something like this. We realized that the North was no longer energetically or physically serving us. All of this to say, I'm not telling you to go through every single fear and address them terrified, but I am saying open up your mind to the idea that your fears might not be as scary as you think they are. Ask yourself why you are having these fears. Are they genuine fears, or are they fears that other people have placed in your mind because this is the nature of what your industry used to be, but it might not necessarily be what it is for your future? The second thing I did was I started to focus on quality input compared to quantity output. At that point, I had been going to countless auditions, totally mindlessly, going to everyone I could find on Playbill and Backstage, not even thinking about it. It was all about output, quantity, 10 auditions a week, 3 a day, whatever it was. I felt like the numbers was making me really special. I was putting myself out in front of a lot of people, but it wasn't really focused. People weren't really seeing me. I was putting out a lot of unintentional, unfocused work in mindless pursuit of goals that I figured I should be having, because that's what everyone was having. Mindlessly looking for work everywhere I could get it to pay the bills, mindlessly following these goals that I didn't even really think about. During 2020, I was forced to stop focusing on quantity output and started focusing on quality input. This was thrust upon me, but if I could do it over again, I totally would do the same thing. For a year and a half, I obviously had to stop auditioning. I started watching a lot of YouTube videos. I started learning a lot. Quality was being intentional and thoughtful, specifically of the squads and groups and teams that I was developing and growing, that were around me and that I was surrounding myself with. And input was all about taking courses, learning, listening, studying others, learning from others, talking with others, and just absorbing information for a little bit. Of course, after I graduated college, all I wanted to do is now put everything that I learned and apply it to the real world. But because of this, I actually had some time to continue learning a little bit. William Esper says that it takes 20 years to be a good actor. I really find that to be true with any industry, and I think it puts a lot of pressure away for trying to put all of this energy up front in your 20s into creating and putting as much output as possible. Yes, of course, we have all this energy and inspiration when we're in our 20s, but at the same time, this is also a fantastic time for us to build up a business so that in the future we can actually do whatever we want. If we spend a few years being really patient and focusing on quality input, we could basically spend the rest of our lives creating quality output. For me, quality input ended up being the people that I was surrounded myself with, the community of like-minded people who we shared values and we were all very passionate about our craft. This was also about creating goals and systems and things that were actually intentional, not just, I'm gonna audition for a bajillion things a day and I wanna get cast by the time it's May. I did not even mean to rhyme, but that was great. Having these mindless goals is a part of this quantity output. I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that. And we're not actually saying, let me take a step back. How do I actually plan to make this happen? Let me have some quality input in myself and create a system for myself to make this happen, instead of trying to throw it out into the universe and saying, why isn't this happening? This is also about literally stepping behind the scenes of my life. A lot of other people were posting on Instagram about shows that they're in and films that they're doing, and that is amazing, and I'm so happy for them. And there's also a part of me that I'm like, damn, I should be doing that. Why am I not doing that? In my life, I knew that I needed to work subtly behind the scenes for a few years. For other people, they might not need that, but for me, that's what I know I needed. And maybe for you, you need that as well. A few months or maybe even a few years to actually step back, get the full-time job, work a little bit, build up this nest egg so you can actually sustain yourself in the future. Like I said, a lot of mine were going to a bajillion auditions a day, waking up at like 5 a.m. and signing up for these things, not even being mindful or thoughtful about it at all. Do you feel like you're doing that right now? If so, comment below what it is and maybe what you think you could switch instead. I would love to hear that. And if you're interested in hearing about more videos like this, feel free to hit the subscribe button. I'd love to see you around in the comments in future videos. The third thing that I did was I became more mindful about my words. I was one of, I think, 2 theater majors in my entire graduating class in high school. Naturally, I felt like I needed to justify and apologize for the fact that I had chosen to be an artist. I had chosen this path when everyone else had chosen to be pre-med and communications. I was like, nah, I'm going for theater. #bye. But when people would ask me how it's going, a lot of people would say, well, what are you gonna do with that? What are you gonna do with that? That really affected me. I started having to be like, I don't know, I'm just figuring it out. Well, I guess we'll see, just kind of playing into it. I just wish I didn't do that. I treated my goals and my aspirations as if they were silly. I would always shake it off. I think that dictated a lot of my reality in college. I did not get cast in a lot of things in college, and I think a big part of it was because I truly did not believe in myself as much. I did not have the self-confidence to be like, yeah, no, I'm gonna walk into this room and I'm great, and if you don't think I'm great, whatever. I had this air of, I need you to cast me, I need this so badly. As much as I said out loud, I'm like, yeah, I don't need it. No, I did. I really did. It was all because of the language that I was giving myself. I was following this starving artist archetype about, I need this job, I need it, or else I'm not gonna feel like I'm worth it. There's something specifically in manifestation called the law of right action, which says that your words and actions affect the world around you and determine the quality of your experiences in life. If you follow the law of attraction or manifestation, it makes a lot of sense. The words you say are important and they're powerful. I don't know if it's because I'm a songwriter now and I really do care a lot about words, but I truly do believe that words are so incredibly freaking powerful. This is Dana. Hi, Dana. If you talk about your career in a sense that, I'll try it for a little bit, I know it's a pipe dream, it will be. It will be. It will be. My friend Ash has this black book. She writes in it every day as if she already has what she wants. We do this every once in a while too, where we'll text as if we have something. We'll say, I am so excited that we finally bought this house and we're starting construction to build the theater. I am so excited to start my tour this week. All of them have been booked up. People actually have parties for this, which I would love to host at one point, where you need to show up as what you want to be in 10 years or 5 years. And you can only have conversations as if you were right there. You can't say, oh yeah, in 10 years I want to be this. You are showing up as yourself in 10 years. What are you going to wear? What are you going to talk about? How are you going to act? I would love for you to implement this somehow in your life, whether it's with a friend or just to yourself in your journal. Some way of manifesting something through speaking it as if you already have it. If you're into manifestation, this is something that I'm sure you've heard over and over again, but especially as an artist. I don't say if I'm going to do something, I say when I'm going to do something. I do think that that is something that has definitely brought me on a really cool path. This is also something that might have to do with your environment. What were the types of people that you had growing up in your lives? Or your family, maybe friends who made you feel like you had to over-explain everything you do, justify everything you did, who always questioned your life decisions instead of supported you wholeheartedly. I love this fourth thing because it is about manifestation, but it's just so fun to do. I feel like the reason why I was able to get a full-time job and then transition to being a full-time freelancer is the way that I have designed and situated my home. I talked about this in our last video, talking about your home as a studio. You need to manifest truly what you want from your surroundings, and there's no better way to do that than in your home. You are around your home every day. If your home looks like what you genuinely want your life to look like, you are gonna get there so much faster. It's like if you surround yourself by words and phrases that you want to be embodying in 5 years, you're gonna have that naturally. Your home is the one thing in the world where you are in every single day, so you might as well make it a place that sparks joy and sparks your own personality and helps you get more inspired. For me, starting this home-based remote business meant that I needed to manifest a space that was going to help me feel warm and inspired and encouraged. This all started from mindfully purchasing things. I created mood boards for every single room. I treated every single room like it was a canvas, like it was a project, because it was. Then we Marie Kondoed the entire space, which basically meant that we only kept things that spark joy in here. There is a close tie in this process to keeping things that spark joy and also promoting a better, happier life for yourself, which in turn helps you attract better people, more money, the career you love. Going back to being mindful and intentional, we now had a home that was more mindful, intentional to our personal styles, what we needed, how we felt most comfortable, what inspired us around the home, and being more thoughtful when we use the space day in and day out. I think that the way that you open doors, open the curtains, is going to influence the rest of your life. If you're like grabbing the curtains and throwing them open, how are you treating your business? How are you treating your body? There's a reflection to the way that you're treating your home and the way that you're talking to yourself. If you are gentle and mindful and intentional, then likely you're striving to be more intentional in your career. Everything interconnects, and it all roots back down to intentionality. Even being on meetings and looking at my meeting background and seeing my home office and just loving it elevates my day-to-day and makes me feel like, yes, I deserve a space that makes me feel inspired, a career that gives back as much as I give to it, a creative community that supports me just as much as I support them. When you design a home that reflects your biggest dreams and personality, it is telling the universe that you are putting intentionality in every part of your life. And from a curated home is also helping you ritualize and romanticize each and every single day, making you more mindful. I've definitely had days where I've like thrown clothes on, go on my laptop, not really think twice about sending an email and just kind of trying to do things like left and right and not really thinking about them. But when I remember that I have a space that I've curated specifically to help me be more intentional and clear-minded and inspired, I can wake up and take a moment, make the bed, walk into a really organized closet, put on some nice clothes, wash my face, and a bathroom that I really like, those sorts of things. When you surround yourself with mindful objects, you're going to start to be more mindful when you're looking for work or when you're building your business or sharing your art, determining the vibe of something before you dive into it. Above all else, I want you to know that being intentional is the most important thing you can do right now. That's definitely what has helped me transition and shift and learn and grow and shape this career that I am making into what it is today and what it'll be in the future. If you want the step-by-step on how I built a soft and intentional business, you'll definitely want to watch this next video. See you next time. I do have my cute new water bottle. Oh my god. Okay, what are we talking about? Is that like come here or like get away?